Hi, welcome to Travels in Pictland. We're off again on another adventure. Today we're off to the historic Glen Lyon. But right now we're in Abberfeld, which is the geographical heart of Scotland. And I'm standing in front of a historic bridge. It's called Wade's Bridge, named after General Wade, who was the guy who was commissioned to build the roads in Scotland after the 1715 rebellion against the British government. And these roads were designed to allow troops into the Highlands and subdue the clans. The clans are still no subdued. So here's the Weem Hotel, and this is where General Wade's troops were barracked while they built the bridge and the roads up here. Castle Menzies, what a cool place.
It is, isn't it?
Unfortunately, we don't have time to go and have a look at that, but might do another day. You can message me in the comments if you fancy a look around Castle Menzies. Or Mingus, depending on how you pronounce it. Anyway, we're off to Glen Lyon. So here we are in the village of Dull. Yes, I did say dull, and it's not that dull at all. This is an incredibly famous place, and I'll tell you a wee story about this church and the area we're standing on. There was a guy who they called a saint, an early Christian in Scotland, called Adamnan, and he had been the successor of St Columba, and he'd actually been abbot of the Columban monastery in Iona. But later, he'd been in Scotland a lot, he loved it, and late in life he went to Aberdeenshire to see some of his old friends, and he died up there, and they were carrying his body to take him back to Iona, and they came through Glen Lyon, and he was on a big wooden sort of stretcher thing, and when they got here he fell off and his body landed on the deck, and they decided that this would be where he would be buried. So Adamnan of Iona was buried here in Dull. So over time this became a very early Christian church, and then became a learning centre of the very early Christian church. These weren't to do with Rome, you know, these people were independent of Rome, and their heart lie with Tours in France and monasteries there. They actually dated their type of Christianity right back to Egypt and the guys living in the desert. So that's kind of like what these guys were doing up here. So anyway, eventually a college was established here, and it became the main seat of religious learning and learning for the whole of Scotland until it moved to St Andrews a couple of hundred years later. Final footnote of the church. The church was donated to the Scottish branch of the Knights Templar in the 1970s, and they kept their version of the Stone of Destiny in this church for about 10 years. Don't ask me any more about it, that's all I know. Well, here we are. We're in the village of Fortingall, right at the bottom of Glen Lyon, and it's a typical July day in Scotland. Anyway, I'm standing next to what's reported to be the oldest piece of vegetation in Europe. It's believed to be about 3,000 to 4,000 years old. It's a yew tree, and it had magical properties back in the old days, which they probably still have, and they used to light fires under it at Beltane and things like that. And it's protected, and as you can see, it's looked after in Fortingall Church. While we're here in Fortingall, there's another tale which I quite like to talk about, and that's the story of Pontius Pilate. who is apparently born in Fortingall. Well, that's a bit strange because the Romans didn't come to Britain until AD 55 and didn't come here in Scotland until AD 80. So how does that work out if Pontius Pilate was the guy who condemned Jesus? There's a kind of bit of a discrepancy in the years, so I think Pontius Pilate's story is gone. Anyway, see you later. Glen Lyon sure is a magical place, but not only that, it's really beautiful. This is the view from the car as we're driving along. A quick stop at Glen Lyon Kirk. Okay, I've been here before in this old church here in Glen Lyon, and last time I was here, St Adamnan's bell was actually here in a bit on the wall. So we'll go and have a look at it. As you can see, this is where the bell used to be, and someone's broken in and stolen it. So it's been here for a long time, been in the glen for over 1,000 years, and somebody has just strolled in here and carted off the saint's bell. So if you've got it, bring it back. Sammy's having a great time in Glen Lyon. This glen was once owned by the MacGregor family, and they held sway in this area, and they used to be a wee bit always on the wrong side of the law and the government, and they ended up actually being banned. The name MacGregor was banned, you weren't allowed to wear the tartan, they were actually banned, and during that period the MacGregors lost control and lost their land that they had in Glen Lyon. And that land was then taken over by the Campbell clan, sorry you Campbells, who've got a bit of a bad reputation, and the Campbells from Glen Lyon were responsible for a lot of the deaths and the murder at the massacre of Glencoe. So there you go. Anyway, look at the beautiful view.
I wouldn't want to be late, mate.
Well, there we go. Just had a fantastic cup of coffee and a scone in Bridge of Balgie. So let's move on. Well, it's blowing up here, I can tell you. So we're up near the top of Glen Lyon, and I'm in one of these, what looks like a pile of rocks, but is a circular homestead marked on the map. Some historians say it was a dun, and some say that they were brochs. There's about 7 of them apparently in the glen. This is one, and there's 2 further ones we might have a little peek at. But one's called the Black Castle, and one's called the Castle of the Dogstone, which we haven't found yet. And can't remember the name of the other. Anyway, this is it. Well, we're really seeing the glen at its best at the moment. This is July in Scotland, and this is kind of like our summertime. But as you can see, the place is absolutely gorgeous. Well, here we are. We're at another homestead here in Glen Lyon, and looks to me like it was a stone tower of some description. I don't think these homesteads, towers, brochs, duns, I don't think they've ever been excavated. So as yet there's no real evidence. I believe at one point, long time ago, there was some dating evidence before, well, way before Pictish times anyway. Anyway, it's really wild out here. I think it's possibly time to head back home. I'll see you later. To head home, I need to take the mountain road that goes over the side of Ben Lors, a massive mountain. It's a narrow, windy, quite dangerous single track road most of the way. Got to be pretty careful. And here's the dam near the top of the mountain, and that's our road there on the left. We're just heading over and we're going to head down to Loch Tay. This is us coming down to Loch Tay. We're on our way back to Abberfeld and the weather's changing. But we've got one last thing to look at on our way, so hold on. Well, here we are. This is Croft na Morrig. We're near Kenmore on our way back to the Abberfeld. This is the last leg of the Glen Lyon trip, which has ended up the Glen Lyon and a little bit of Loch Tay trip. You must come here if you can. Scotland's an absolutely amazing place. This is just fantastic. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and keep watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to say hi on the messaging, and see you later. Well, I had a great trip up through Glen Lyon. I didn't quite manage to show you everything that I would like to have. There, for instance, we didn't see a Pictish stone, we didn't see the Cailach, we didn't see Adamnan's stone, and various other things, due to roadworks mainly. And at one point we just couldn't get access to a place where there's the big Pictish stone. It's in Menzies Mausoleum, and we just couldn't get in. Doors were all locked. Could see it through the window. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please hit like and subscribe and share it with your friends, and please comment on anything, any suggestions somebody would like me to go, and hey, take care, and I'll see you later.